And welcome to Thrift Shop Biography. This is the one about Morris Day. Thank you for listening.
Hello, Cleo.
Oh, hello, Richard.
How are you?
I'm all right. Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm all right, thanks. Did you have the time to read the book this week?
Hey! Yes, I did.
So you picked this one up, didn't you? Because I don't think I would have even known who it was.
A lot of people in Britain, do not know who Morris Day is. Morris Day from the band The Time. They're not massive in Britain. They're not unheard of in Britain, but they're not massive in Britain. You usually have to explain to people, have you seen the film Purple Rain? In the film Purple Rain, Prince and his band have got a nemesis band. Their enemies are Morris Day and The Time. And everyone goes, oh, right. And that's the only way in for most people in Britain. I think they're bigger in America.
Yeah, because I would say, I'm a lifelong music fan, and they are kind of, I do know who they are, but they were never on my radar.
No, I don't think they had a massive hit at any point with any of their hits in Britain. But if you're a Prince fan, you know who it is.
Yeah, right. Well, there are lots of Prince fans.
There are loads of Prince fans. And yeah, I picked it straight up. I was like, oh my God, Morris Day wrote a book. It's going to be all about Prince. And basically, this is a book about Prince.
Yeah.
And Morris Day.
It is.
Completely both.
Yeah, it really is. I think it just shows how much Prince infiltrated and overshadowed Morris Day's life the fact that Morris Day's autobiography is more about Prince and himself.
Yeah, it is. It's almost like Madonna's brother in that they're both very controlling people, control freaks, there's no doubt about it, and they take other people with them.
Yeah.
That struggle to find their own identity in that. That's Madonna's brother. That's definitely Morris Day. That's what this book's about.
Yeah, but Madonna's brother's book was essentially about Madonna saying what a bitch she was. That was a point of the book.
Yeah, that's true.
Morris Day's autobiography should be about Morris Day.
Yeah.
And it just isn't.
It's
about, well, it is.
It is as well. It's about both. It is about the parallel lives, yeah.
Yeah, but it's just thoroughly interesting.
Yeah, and I learned all about Morris Day. I didn't know a thing about him personally, not a single thing about his personal life before I read this book.
Uh-huh.
And now I do.
Also, it's not just that the book is about Prince. I mean, he even writes passages in Prince's voice. It's like he's having a conversation with him.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
I mean, really, a psychologist should read this book. I think it's...
Yeah.
At least Madonna's brother just spent a whole book slagging her off from his point of view.
Yeah.
Whereas Morris Day's book, he says something, and then literally the next line will be Prince talking back to him.
Yeah, it's like Prince's voice is in bold and his is not, and it goes back and forth. Well, this man was literally just so much part of his life that his story is Prince's story and vice versa. So he probably had to do that. And the other part of me wonders, he sort of must know that Prince fans are going to read this book and he doesn't want to piss them off. So he's got to be quite careful. I'm not sure. That's my cynical view. And I'm like, so he's got to make sure he goes, I know Prince is a genius. And Prince's voice goes, oh, thanks, man.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Yeah. Well, you're not so bad yourself. Well, cool. It's like they've got to... just to make sure that it's so carefully even and he's never slagging him off.
Yeah.
Which is something that he did in real life, didn't he? He was annoyed at him a million times, but he never, ever voiced that, which is how he survived right to the end as one of Prince's people. Because a lot of people would have dropped away if they ever got annoyed.
Well, I think, you say that he gives an even-handed account of Prince in this book, and he does, but some of the stuff that he tells us that Prince did, I can make my own opinion up through reading it. I think, God, Prince is an absolute arsehole at times.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, yeah,
and this guy has to put up with, Morris Day has to put up with
it. Yeah, he is. He is a major control.
That's his livelihood in a way. That's his road to success.
Yeah, that's true. And in a similar way to Madonna, he recognises that Prince is the genius and he's an averagely talented musician. And without Prince, he's nobody and he's come from nothing and he'll remain nothing. They're all hard-working musicians, but Prince is the one to take him to the stratosphere, and he did. And so there's gratitude there that was earned.
Yeah, but also it's that thing, if Morris Day would never know that he might have made it on his own as well. He might have done. I think he's more than averagely talented, isn't he? He's very creative. He gets his bands together and they're successful. And
That's
it's like
true.
he may well have reached success and fame without Prince.
Yeah, true. He didn't bring nothing to the table, but not at the level. It's like, they've managed to get 4 songs together to try and start a new album. Meanwhile, Prince has done 4 songs in 2 days. You know what I mean?
I know, but Prince is a prolific freak.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, there are few people like Prince, let's be honest.
Yeah, exactly. You can't compare yourself.
Okay, so what you're saying is that in terms of Morris Day, you had no previous knowledge
about who he was. Not a clue. Absolutely nothing. Got nothing.
Yeah.
I've seen him.
Okay.
I've seen them. I've seen the time. They came to Britain the year after, or the same year Prince died, or very close.
Oh, really? Yeah.
They played a sort of tribute night. It was amazing. Yeah, I've seen a few of these people, and I've seen the films. And I know he's great, but I didn't know who he was.
We should also say that this book was written after Prince died.
Oh yeah.
So I wonder whether the conversations between him and Prince in the book are just a way of him reconciling his death. It's like him grieving him in a way.
Yeah.
Like conversations they never had, maybe.
Yeah,
making sense and making peace of everything.
Totally. It's therapy, isn't it? It's so many people write their books as a form of therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just coming to terms with it. And his anger, or his not anger, or his gratitude. Yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah, it's very, I have to say, we've read lots of books now. The format of this is different to any one that we've read before. And at the beginning, I was a bit like, oh, this is weird. But actually, as I got into it, it's like, oh, this is actually a really interesting way of bringing somebody to life and explaining how they were, I think it's a really unique take on a friendship, really, to have the dead person talking.
Yeah, I do, and you can hear his voice. Yeah. Anyway, bloody hell, this is a long intro.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah.
Morris Day.
His actual name.
Yeah.
Yes.
Born in 1956 in Springfield, Illinois. Is that where the Simpsons live?
Oh, where do they live? Springfield. Oh, yeah.
But is it actually in a Springfield in an actual state? Is it
There's
Illinois?
a few Springfields. Somebody knows this. There are a few. Yeah. I don't know which one it is.
All right, well...
Anyway, he was in the Illinois one. He was not a cartoon.
No, he was...
I bet you he's been a cartoon.
Probably been in The Simpsons.
Yeah, I bet he has.
His mum was called Lavon.
Yeah, Doherty.
And his dad was called Dickie.
Yes, Dickie Day.
Dickie Day.
Yeah, good name.
Mum was 16 when she married Dickie.
Yeah, they were just kids.
Was he a kid? Was Dickie a kid?
Don't know. He didn't say. But, yeah.
They had a baby.
Yeah, they had Sandy first, his sister. Then they had Morris. And the parents divorced before he was even born. So he didn't stand a chance in that department.
Yeah, well, then Dad went off to Germany in the Air Force. But then when he came back, he shacked up with another woman in the next town and had 3 kids.
Yeah, like 40 miles away.
Yeah.
And never visited.
I think that's so harsh that, your dad has 2 kids, yourself and your sister. And then he goes off to be in the Air Force and he comes back nearby, has 3 more kids and seemingly doesn't bother about the 2 kids he's already got. That's horrible.
It is. And he says it left a void. It is a textbook. It left that void, and that's the void that needs to be filled with applause, that we have learned in our pocket psychology lessons that we've been teaching ourselves.
But also what makes
it...
Though, yeah, 100%. No, actually, what makes it worse is that Lavon, Mum, marries again, a man called Jesse, who's a drinker, a gambler, and an abuser.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, there's a horrific abuse going on around these 2 little kids. And Morris actually says
he's a scary cat.
Yeah. And do you know what? One line really stuck with me. Little Morris, so he's just a toddler at this point. And he says, nothing. He said, there's nothing like seeing your mum get beaten up. You can't do anything. You can't stop it. He says, you just sit there and you soak up the terror.
Wow.
And I thought, Christ. And that's at the beginning of the book. And I thought, whatever this man goes on to do, however much I disagree with what he does, I'm kind of rooting for him, really.
Yeah.
Because that's so awful. He's literally terrified by this massive, drunk, wife-beating man.
Yeah.
It's just so horrible. What a horrible start to life.
It really is. And it kind of gets worse. Because, it's just messed up. Yeah, his foundation is extremely shaky, let's face it.
Yeah, but when he's 7, his mum's a nurse, by the way. She's so switched on. I love her. We'll talk more about her in a minute.
She really is.
But when he's 7, Mum runs away with the kids to her sister in Minneapolis.
Well, actually, they tried to go to LA, but they sort of stopped in Minneapolis to visit her cousin, and then sort of didn't get any further. So all the chances of life, if he hadn't stopped there, he'd never have met Prince. Blah blah blah. He could have just been somebody you've never heard of.
Yeah,
probably.
Yeah, there were times when that looked like that was going to happen. That he was just going to.
Yeah, that's true.
So he's living now. He's escaped this horrible stepfather. And he's living in a house now on the top floor where there's it's a busy house. There's lots of kids, lots of adults. And he says all the adults are kind of all partner swapping.
Oh, my God, I know, yeah.
Having affairs. And he's watching all of that go on. And he said that it did skew his idea of what a grown-up relationship is.
Yeah.
Because they all seem to be going at it all with each other.
Each other's wives and husbands, yeah. And, they're staying with a cousin, and the cousin's husband... The cousin's husband is actually his real dad's sister.
No, it would be brother, Clear.
Brother. That's the one.
No, but it's confusing.
Yeah,
I'm not surprised,
it is. They're all interrelated as well. And then he works at a gas station, and the bloke who's his boss is also a pimp. And then also sleeping with his mother. It's just, it's a really tangled web.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, total mistrust, doesn't it? I mean, it's just... Yeah, he doesn't believe in love after that, yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, his mum's dad was a pimp as well.
Right, yeah.
So, that's what his mum grew up with. And he also dressed very smart like a pimp. And then his mum dressed him always in that way.
Like a pimp?
Yeah, like a pimp.
Like a mini pimp.
Yes. Exactly, like really smart suits, ties, shirts. I mean, his persona then, as Morris Day later, was like a pimp. He had the hat, he had the coat on his shoulders, the nice watch. He totally was a pimp character. So it started there.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy, eh?
It is crazy, really. And I don't think it's very nice for a little boy to be brought up emulating a pimp.
It isn't. It is.
He looked cool.
Yeah, I say that. As long as he's only doing it in his clothes at this point, because he would have looked like the snappiest dressed little fella in town.
Yeah.
But clearly was not a happy boy. It is a troubled life. Because he escaped into music. It's classic. Yeah,
his sister went to sing with the Nation Time Choir, who were a big ensemble, this black political choir. This is a time of the Black Panthers and Malcolm X, and there was this big choir that she used to go and sing with, and little Morris used to go along and sing, but he was transfixed on the drummer. He couldn't take his eyes off him. So that was his kind of introduction.
Yeah, I mean, he loved that choir, but he was really into James Brown and funk. So it was all going on, because he wasn't madly into the politics, basically. He's into the music.
Yeah, he was into the music. It's just music for life, isn't it?
And there's a band called Tower of Power, who I looked up. And they're really, really funky. And he copied their drummer. I don't remember when he said he got drums, do you?
No.
We assume he's got some drums to drum on. But anyway, he copied them note for note, got them down. And then he actually saw the Jackson 5, which totally blew his tiny mind. And that was it. That was life-changing. Partly because to see black kids and kids your own age being that amazing.
Right, yeah.
You literally could see yourself, and that could be you. So, yes, nice one, Jackson 5. Changed a lot of people. Changed little Lenny Kravitz. Little Lenny Kravitz saw them. We've got to read his book. But I just know that fact. That's what made Lenny Lenny. And he later became best mates with Prince. So it all ties together.
All ties together.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about his mum a minute. So Morris's mum, Lavon, who is a nurse, and she put herself through college to become a nurse. She had an idea. When they were in Minneapolis, she's there for a while, and she thinks, I think this is such a bizarre realization. She goes, I think Minneapolis could be home to the biggest indoor shopping mall in the world.
Yeah, yeah.
And then she went ahead and she totally planned it and created the blueprints, did all the planning, set up meetings.
I think she worked with an architect.
Amazing, right? So this woman whose dad was a pimp and had this life, married at 16, popped the kids out, had to escape an abusive partner, She totally is this brain who really sees extraordinary things in the bigger picture and not just has these ideas, but actually actions them. And so she actually got all of these blueprints and stuff, and she set up meetings with financial backers and the townspeople, and eventually they kind of went cold on her.
Yeah.
And then 15 years later, Minneapolis opens the biggest indoor shopping mall in the world.
Yeah.
That's her, really. They just pushed her out.
That is her. It has to be, because 15 years, you'd think, is about the amount of time that would take to make that happen and to opening.
Wow. So that is totally down to her. I mean, she's totally was pushed out of all of that, of course, because she's a woman and she's a black woman.
Yeah,
they probably,
black woman with architectural dreams that are huge and amazing. Yeah, that's never going to happen. She was robbed.
Yeah.
Never going to happen then.
She was totally robbed, but what an amazing woman.
This sets her up as she's an amazing mother, and more of that to come.
Yeah.
Anyway, little tiny Morris Day. He's a little kid. I don't know the exact age. He's just very small. I'm going to say 7. When he's at school and he walks into this lunchroom at lunchtime and he sees Prince, he doesn't know who that is. He's another little kid. In fact, Prince is 2 years younger, so he's even littler. And he's a little fellow anyway. And he's sitting there with an afro and pink girls' fingerless gloves on, playing the guitar. And he's like, wow, who is this fellow? He's totally drawn to this person, but he loves the music too.
I love that Morris says when he first saw Prince, he says, well, it was such a shock because most of the guys wear black leather gloves, but Prince was wearing lady mittens. I never heard lady mittens before. I think that's so funny. Lady mittens. Do you have any lady mittens?
Okay, that is just too personal. It sounds wrong, but I can't exactly pinpoint why. But anyway.
So Prince as a young kid, and we're talking like prepubescent kid, like a young child, Prince is the man he becomes from the age of nothing.
He was different. He was born different, and unique.
But even to have the confidence to wear feminine clothes at a school in the 1960s, 70s.
Absolutely. It's amazing, isn't it? You don't get to hear much about him from that age. Yeah, it's really cool. And his best mate was Andre Simone, who was cool as hell.
Yeah.
Because I saw him playing with the NPG, Prince's band, since Prince died. He's done a few gigs filling his shoes. And he's cool as hell still. And they met at school as well. And in fact, Prince ended up living with him after his mum had got another abusive husband. So then he lived with his dad for a bit, and his dad was too strict. And then so he moved in with his schoolmate, Andre Simone. So they were really tight at that point. And they'd formed this band called Grand Central. Andre Simone's on bass. Andre's sister is on the keyboards, and this bloke Chaz is on drums, but they were having problems with him.
Yeah.
So Morris Day was friends with Andre first, and it was Andre who got him that audition with the band to switch in with the drums. Yeah, and got the job because he knew all the same tunes as they knew. They listened to all the same music. Mm-hmm. They had the right fit.
He said that when he went for the audition, everybody was really friendly apart from Prince.
Yeah.
It was just very aloof, and he said he figured out that's who he was. He was often silent and he would stand back and watch, but he wouldn't be friendly or anything. Yeah. He's just very aloof. I get that about him anyway. He always seems to me, when I think of Prince, I think of him as some kind of hermit living in a castle away from everyone.
Of course, like aloofness is a very fine line for shyness.
Yeah.
You know,
or rudeness.
Excruciatingly sly sometimes. Or what?
Rudeness.
It's a fine line, I tell you.
I mean, I guess you could be shy and rude. They're not mutually exclusive.
No.
Maybe he was a bit of both.
Yeah, maybe he was.
Can I just say, I do like Prince. I do.
So this book didn't put you off his personality?
No, not at all. I mean, I think there are kind of problems with him. He's definitely a control freak. And
definitely.
I think that's kind of where it begins and ends. It's weird. I think he is a real dichotomy of a person. So just talking about him being shy and arrogant, etc.
Yeah.
Actually, he's incredibly generous.
Yeah.
with his talent, but at the same time, he's very controlling of it.
Totally. All those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very insightful book about Prince. It really is.
Yeah. Anyway, so they're still kids at the moment,
Yeah.
jamming in their band Grand Central.
Yes. I've got their album, you know. It's not a real album. They put it together and put it out. I don't know who did it. But it's fully them all in a rehearsal room. It's brilliant. Just jamming.
So there's recordings of pre-solo Prince in the band Grand Central when they're essentially teenagers. There's recordings, is there?
Yeah, there is. I've got them.
Is it funk?
Yeah, it's just brilliant. It's real jams. It goes on and on and on.
Oh, are Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis in there yet? Or are they in another band?
No, they're not there yet.
Okay,
so
all right.
Meanwhile,
all right.
happening at the same time was Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis in a band called Flight Time with their mate Jelly Bean Johnson on drums.
Mm-hmm.
And they were doing gigs and practices all the time. And if anybody doesn't know, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis are total and utter legends and went off to produce Janet Jackson's Control, Rhythm Nation, Alexandra O'Neal, all sorts of amazing music and in and out of Prince. But then, so basically when Morris Day wanted to form, they come back later basically, don't they? Because they become the Time. But at this point, they're Flight Time. That's the name of that band.
And Prince and Morris and Andre Simone are Grand Central.
Yes.
And Morris's amazing mum, is listening in to Grand Central, isn't she?
Yeah.
And she's kind of thinking, hey, they're good. What can I do about this? How can I help them get to success?
Yeah.
And so she then becomes their manager, and she invests her time and her money and her talents into kind of getting them out there and spreading the word. And she's even flying to New York, getting meetings with managers and record labels and stuff. I really like his mum.
I know, she is absolutely brilliant. And this is the point where I realised that he'd have every right to be bitter because his mum is the one pushing for them to get deals. And to the point of flying to New York, that's expensive as much as anything.
Yeah.
She's made demos, she's taken them to all the music executives to get a deal. Meanwhile, by the time they get back, he finds out Prince has flown to LA and got himself a deal without anyone. He didn't take anyone with him because he was 19 and he famously said, I'm going to play all the instruments. I want to produce it. I want to do everything. And they said, okay, there you go. And he did it. So he ditched everyone.
No, but he did that with the Grand Central demo tape.
Yeah.
He took the Grand Central demo tape, which is the band with Morris and Andre, which Morris's mum had been pimping about in New York.
Yeah.
Prince took it to Warner Brothers in LA and said, this is me. I play every instrument on this record. Well, actually, that's not true. It was the band Grand Central. So I really understand how Morris is really pissed off at this point with Prince. Yeah. He's got himself a solo deal on the strength of the demo tape they all made together.
Yeah, did he say... Are you sure he said he played everything on it? Or
yeah,
he did?
Yeah, because Morris said to him, but you didn't play everything on it. And Prince said, well, I could if I wanted to.
Oh, right.
Which is true.
Bloody hell.
That
right.
is actually true.
Yeah.
But I totally get why, this is sowing seeds of distrust now, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably the worst thing he did, actually.
Do you?
Yeah, probably. Because that's pretty bad. That's got all the potential for them to never speak again.
I think it shows that Prince knew he's confident in his own talent and he probably got impatient with Morris's mum being the manager. Maybe he didn't see the brilliance of Morris's mum, and thought, we don't need somebody's mum pimping our stuff out. I can do it myself. He's very sure of himself. He's very confident because he is supremely talented. So he knows he can back himself up.
Yeah, he is a genius. Morris Day says he's a genius.
Yeah.
And a man possessed. And whether he's thinking about the mum or not, I don't know. He was thinking about himself, I think. He was just going, I want this.
Yeah.
I'm ready. I've got all the talent and I want a deal. He's got so much music he wants to make, and it is so amazing, his first album. It's just so creative. He knew he could do it without the band because he knew once he was given the means to do it, it would all just come out, and that's what happened. Once he's given a studio to play in, pretty famously, he'd go into a studio on his own, lay down some vocals, lay down harmonies over them, lay down the guitar parts, play the drums, recording it all. And in the morning, he's got a finished song with all the instruments, all the layers of harmonies, everything on it. That's phenomenal. And that's what he did. As soon as he was able to, given the means to do it. And he must have known he could. And that's what it was all about. I can imagine he would be quite impatient, not just for a deal, but just to get his music out of his head, because he's got so much in him.
Also, what's amazing is he's 19 at this point. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible they gave him the chance, actually.
Yeah.
Warner Brothers signed him. Yeah, and off he went. So, yeah, they're stuck back in Minneapolis. At 18, Morris had a kid with his girlfriend, you know, the classic mistakes you make. Yeah.
Right.
And he was like, I've got to be a grown-up now. So
Yeah.
him and his mum moved to Maryland, and he was playing jazz in a band, but he just had a normal job. He did quite a few years of this, didn't he? Then they moved to San Jose and tried to be normal then.
But the thing about Prince getting the deal is when he started gigging, he took Andre with him to be part of his band, but he didn't take Morris.
Yeah.
So not only has Prince left, he's essentially split up the band they had. Because, of course, Andre's going to go. Like Morris said, he didn't begrudge Andre going because he would have gone should he got the opportunity. But for some reason, Prince didn't ask Morris to be his drummer.
Yeah, that's true.
So Morris got incredibly depressed. Yeah, and he just has this life of a normal person working menial jobs and having babies. And, you know, he has to watch his friend, who he feels ripped off by because he got the deal on that demo tape that Morris had a big part in. And he has to watch his friend have this growing music career while he's working shitty jobs. That's
right. Meanwhile, they're playing Soft and Wet on the radio, and he's going, you know, he's hearing that. He's happy.
Do you know what? I did not know how sexual all of Prince's early stuff was.
Did you not?
Soft and Wet. And then you read the other titles, you kind of think, oh my God, he's a pervert.
How did you not know that?
I don't know much about his early stuff. I mean, I know that he would go on in a trench coat and panties.
Yeah.
But I didn't realise that his songs were so sexually explicit.
Yes, they are. You should listen to them. They're excellent.
I mean, I find it... I guess I'm a prude, but I find it all a bit odd.
Hey, it worked, though.
Didn't it? Yeah.
It did.
Sex sells.
Yes. So, yeah, I guess Prince then had to tour because he made all this music, but then he had to tour with the bands. So that's why he had to put a band together. And that was the revolution. There's all sorts of people in that. They're all from Minneapolis, which is most of them anyway. Bobby Z was his drummer at that point, so he didn't need a drummer. He probably just got more talented people, to be fair.
No, I don't know. I mean, I don't know anything about Morris. I've not seen Morris Day perform, but I've got no reason to believe that he's not a talented drummer. I mean, Prince does essentially come back and get him at one point, so he must rate him.
You're right. Actually, you're totally right.
I think Prince does a very weird control thing, and I think maybe if he sees somebody might rise up and be a contender, Prince might keep them in their place. I think his controlling nature, I think, might even go to that level, whereas he surrounds himself with good people, but maybe not brilliant people who might usurp his own greatness, which he was in no danger of because he is supremely talented and a genius. But I do wonder if there is a little bit of insecurity in it.
It's possible. But also, he was famously very sober, and he never dabbled with drugs or drink, whereas Morris is admitting that he's off his head a lot. He's a real stoner. And that, that doesn't...
but Morris, you see, I feel bad for Morris. Morris has now got a humdrum life while his friend has a music career. So I totally get why he would drink and do drugs.
I do too.
To get out of it.
I know. You see both sides of it. You can totally see both sides of it. It's almost like he had to get himself together before Prince would get him on board again.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, okay.
Because people have to be 100% on it to be anywhere near Prince. He demands that of people.
Hang on a minute. Is Prince the one? I remember you talking about somebody in the past. Is Prince the one who fines members of his band if they turn up late or hungover?
Yeah, but he was copying James Brown. James Brown
did
started
James
that.
Brown do that?
Yeah, James Brown did it. Yeah, find them all the time.
I'd imagine that James Brown was off his head all the time.
He probably was, but he was on it as well. He's off it and on it.
Right.
So
actually,
much...
yeah, okay, I get that. Yeah. As long as you can turn up and...
Yeah, that's it. Whereas he was getting stoned, having kids, because you have to be 200% on to keep up with Prince, or more. You have to be able to be up all night, out all day.
Actually, so then I should take back what I just said. Perhaps Prince wasn't employing Morris because he was worried about his talent. He was probably worried about his professionalism.
Lifestyle. Actually. It's possible.
Yeah. Okay.
We have to make up that part.
Yeah.
Because he proceeded to be very reliable many different times. Anyway, Prince was touring in 1979 with his budgie smugglers, bikini briefs, and trench coat.
And his lady mittens.
He's like, yeah.
Budgie smugglers and lady mittens.
And they were supporting Rick James. It was his Fire It Up tour. And Rick James was 31, Prince was 21. And he basically stole Rick James's thunder because they went on first, obviously. But they also, this wasn't in this book, but I happen to know this, were stealing some of Rick James's act.
Oh, were they?
They were like copying him.
Right.
Yeah. And it made it look like he was, because he came on after them. Yeah, even to the point of some of the costumes they nicked and stuff. But anyway, so around this time, Prince calls Morris into the studio in Chanhassen on the outskirts of Minneapolis, is where Paisley Park got built in the end. So he was always out there. So that was interesting. Yeah, they were hitting the clubs and the dance floors and listening to the music, seeing what was going on. Chic, Brothers Johnson, Miles Davis, all that stuff. So they were soaking it all up together. And then basically they put a band together. They got enough music together that they needed a band to play it. And that's when the time got invented. Between Prince and Morris Day, basically, jamming to all that stuff together. They got Matt Fink on the keys, who's still knocking around. And Morris Day's the singer. Oh, how this happened. I know how this happened, right? Alexander O'Neill was on the vocals, but then he left.
Yeah, I didn't know he was part of all this.
It's amazing, isn't it? He left to become Alexander O'Neill.
Yeah. The reason he left is because he didn't think Prince was paying him enough money.
Yeah.
I like that, actually, that he knew his own worth.
Yeah, fair enough.
And he held out. And
yeah,
to the point where, Prince already had massive, growing fame at this point. Lots of people are hitching onto him. Alexander O'Neill, who didn't have fame at this point, thought, I'm not going there. I'm better. I'm worth more. And so he held back. And he did indeed do it on his own, didn't he?
Yes, and everyone's heard of Alexander O'Neill, whereas not that many people can name members of the time.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because they were just being paid a sort of a rate by Prince. They were like session musicians on a side project of Prince, basically, weren't they?
Yeah.
Which made them rise to certain levels of fame, but it doesn't seem like they got massively rich off it.
No.
Anyway, you've got Jam and Lewis, Jelly Bean Johnson. Once Alexander O'Neill left, Morris Day stepped up and they got someone else on the drums because he's really a fun and cool performer. He's just really good. Like, they had that song Cool. Do you know it?
I don't know anything about them.
Do you not?
No.
It goes C-O-O-L and everyone does the letters with their hands in the air.
Like the YMCA?
No, because you only do it with one hand. C-O-O-L.
How do you do an O with one hand?
Like, you just make it O with your thumb and your fingers.
Oh, okay.
It's very small, and a C and an L, It's very small, but everyone does it. It's really fun.
Cool.
It's supposed to be fun. They're supposed to be quite humorous, and they have really good choreography. And it's camp, and you can see that Prince actually really admired it, and I could see that he created this person and then sort of took from it as well.
Okay. Mm-hmm. The Times' first album actually is produced by Morris Day and Prince under a pseudonym. So Prince does actually allow Morris some creative control. Like we've said, he's so controlling. So what's interesting about this is that Prince really did leave Morris to the wilderness for a good 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, he really
a
did.
Security guard and working in car rental. And then at one point he's back in Minneapolis and he says, come over. And then this all starts happening.
Yeah.
And seemingly, like, he's letting Morris Day produce the album. He still rates him. I find it very weird that he dropped him for a few years.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Oh, but is it because he was waiting for him to get sober and back in line, you think?
We can't be sure. Don't know, basically. Don't know.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Yeah. And by the way, Andre Simone, I did not know this, had left the band because he went to marry Jodie Watley from Shalimar.
Wow.
And they made hits together. I didn't know that. That's great. So the Time got their act together, literally, and became the support band for the Controversy tour. I mean, in a nutshell, they supported Prince in loads of tours. I mean, on and on for years. That's why they're so linked to Prince as well. Not only was Prince in the music and writing it and producing it, but they were also touring together, so it was a bit of a double act.
Yeah. And Controversy is like Prince's 4th album at this point. He's really knocking them out, isn't he?
Yeah.
Because he's not really got mainstream success quite yet. He's touching the charts.
It's getting there. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't know, like, the average person in the street doesn't know who Prince is yet.
Oh,
but
you're
he's on
right.
his
You're
4th
right.
album and furiously knocking stuff out and touring and getting known. I mean, it's happening.
Yes.
It's just amazing how prolific he is.
It really is. Yeah, 'cause it's like huge albums every year. Yeah, because 1982, straight after that, is the 1999 album. I mean, now you start to hear of him, don't you?
Yeah.
Little Red Corvettes on that.
Yeah, so he's doing his own albums. He's doing The Time, but he's also doing things like Vanity 6 and stuff as well.
Yeah.
I mean, call him prolific, but he's
it's
truly
insane.
prolific in every sense of the word and beyond. It's astonishing what he accomplishes. It really is.
And he writes stuff for other random people as well. And that whole time he's knocking out songs and sticking them in his vault.
Yeah, right.
Because Warner Brothers won't let him release albums unless he's got the time to tour them and promote them. So you can't release as much music as you're making. You can only release 10 songs a year. And that's like 1 week's work for him. I can understand how frustrating that is.
Yeah.
You know, all the other books, they're like, oh, we're so busy on tour, we'll never find time to write songs for our next album.
Yeah, right, yeah.
This bloke's just knocking them out.
Yeah.
And it does help that he doesn't do drink or drugs. It's like music is his drugs. He'll stay up all night after a show just making another hit.
Yeah,
you know?
right.
That's why.
And I tell you what else he doesn't really do. He doesn't really do promotion. You never see very many interviews with him.
That's true.
Not that many photo shoots and stuff. Yeah, that is a
That's
lot
a lot
of
of time
promotion. And so he just concentrates on the art, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, good for him.
It's just about the music. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
But another interesting bit about the Time touring with Prince, and they often open for him, and they're brilliant, so the crowd really get going. Like, the Time will have parties in the hotel and Prince comes in. There is something, reading between the lines, Prince got a bit jealous of their success and stuff, and then Prince's people, there's a bit
Yeah, it's true.
where the Time are on stage and Prince's band are throwing eggs at Morris Day when he's on stage. They're throwing them from the side of the stage. So there is some kind of animosity growing between the two groups.
Yeah.
Which I think has to come from Prince, doesn't it?
Yeah, maybe. It's similar to when Prince is supporting Rick James
Yes.
and threatens to steal their thunder. It's the same because their Time are a really good act.
And you know, we've just read Sebastian Bach, and the same thing happened when they, the new band, Skid Row, went on tour with Bon Jovi.
Yeah.
And in fact, Bon Jovi's people, I think Sebastian Bach was just about to go on stage, and Bon Jovi's people drenched him with water just as he was going on stage.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, there's some real, it's jealousy, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Wow.
But it's that competitive edge that makes everyone better. You know, 'cause everyone's got to beat the other one, and everything just gets better.
Yeah, bullying doesn't hurt you, does it? Just get on with it.
No, it just makes you stronger. Yeah. Oh, I'll tell you when the real blow came. Okay, it's 1983, and Jam and Lewis are doing a side gig, a secret side gig. They're producing the SOS band because Prince never likes to know that anyone's doing any other work, which is a bit sad. And they get stranded in a snowstorm in Georgia, and so they miss a gig. They just literally can't get there. And so Prince fires them.
Yeah.
Which is terrible. I want to say instrumental. It's kind of instrumental to the ruination of the time. But partly is because it broke Morris Day's heart, because it's at that point when he realises it's not his band.
Yeah, right.
You know, he's got no control. It just destroys his ego, you know, really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's absolutely gutted. And so he thinks it's all over, and him and Prince are probably done. And then Purple Rain happens, and Prince casts the Time as the rival band. And they're a massive part of that film. And they do Jungle Love and The Bird, which I tell you what, Richard, you should watch Purple Rain.
How do you know I haven't watched it? I was just about to confess.
I'm going to guess you've watched it. If you never watched it...
No, I haven't. I've never watched Purple Rain.
Well, this time I'm happy you've never watched it, because you'll get to watch it for the first time.
Okay. All right.
Which is brilliant. But you'll laugh all the way through it, because there's so many shots of the audience and people and their 80s hairdos and makeup and
Wow.
smoking cigarettes in a really 80s way, you know, looking all moody is laugh out loud hilarious. In fact, the whole thing's kind of ridiculous and preposterous, but it's so funny. The only time it isn't funny is when the band start playing, because the music in it is utterly amazing and it's live. It's actually Purple Rain was actually the song you hear was live.
What, recorded while they were making the film?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh wow!
It's just so good. None of them had ever acted, and he said his part was just big, but he kept getting bigger and he kept improvising. And when he watched the whole thing, they just left loads of it in, and he's a big star of that film. Yeah. And obviously it made him really famous. And that's the point where he sort of starts blurring the lines between his made-up character, which is a pimp and a womanizer, and a party man.
And his real self.
Yeah, and he gets very confused once he gets very famous. He doesn't handle it very well, I don't think, the fame. He forgets who he used to be for a while.
With Purple Rain, this is another illustration of Prince being controlling. So the Time in the film Purple Rain have their own songs, right? Which are really popular within the film.
Yes.
They do not end up on the soundtrack album. The soundtrack album is just Prince's songs.
Yeah, but I thought, what soundtrack album? Prince released his album Purple Rain to coincide with the film.
Yeah, but that's essentially...
But that's not a soundtrack of the film.
Wouldn't that be considered the soundtrack album?
I don't think so.
Well, it's called Purple Rain, and the film is called Purple Rain.
Yeah, but soundtracks usually have other incidental songs on and all sorts of songs, but...
No, but that's what he's saying, is that the songs that the Time did in the film Purple Rain should be on the album Purple Rain. It is essentially a soundtrack, and Prince decides not to have the soundtrack. He decides to do his own album called Purple Rain.
Yes. So there isn't a soundtrack, no.
That is the soundtrack, isn't it?
Well, yeah, you're right. All those songs are in... It's his film. It's his idea. That album, Purple Rain, is absolutely perfect. From beginning to end, it's a Prince album. You can't put other people on a Prince album. They put those songs on a Time album and sold tons.
Okay.
In this instance, I don't know what he's whinging about.
All right, okay.
You know what I mean? Yeah, because they released their album Ice Cream Castles, which is a big one for them, and they put those songs on it.
Okay, all right.
That's fair.
So everyone did well out of Purple Rain.
Everyone did very well out of it, yeah.
Good for them. So now Prince is arguably the most famous
megastar
musician on the planet, him and Michael Jackson, right?
Yeah.
You love both of them. Was there a rivalry between them, or was it a respect?
It's a bit of a rivalry, yeah. The respect only came out from Prince after Michael Jackson died, and he was very, very sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. But there's that famous thing where Michael Jackson had asked Prince to duet on Bad, and you can Google it. It's Prince talking about it, and he goes, well, I didn't do it because the first line is, your body's mine. I'm like, I'm sure as hell not saying that to you. And you sure as hell ain't saying that to me. So, yeah, it was a bit of rivalry. But you can't compare the two. They're totally different. The one's utterly prolific musical genius that just knocks out amazing songs and lyrics. The other one's a world-class entertainer and an incredible dancer. And it's more of a wide entertainment genius. They're different. They're really different. Both geniuses in their own ways. At this point, his drug taking has escalated. That will make you broke.
Yeah, it seems.
I bet you he got paid a big advance for Purple Rain and spunked it all on drugs.
And he does have a family to look at. He has various children at this point, doesn't he?
Yeah. He's become a pimp. It's become his character.
He's getting money, but I can't imagine he's in a band, so it's getting split various ways. He's not like getting Prince amounts of money.
No, that's true.
He's just getting some money. And also, I bet he didn't get paid very much for being in Purple Rain, because Prince wasn't massive when they were filming it. It would have just
No, that is very true. He'd have got a payoff of some thousands or something, yeah.
So he's broke because he has a addiction as well.
Right? I didn't know this, but do you know the song Pop Life by Prince?
Yes.
Pop Life, everybody needs a thrill. And Morris says that Prince wrote it about Morris.
Okay.
And it's like, what's that going in your nose? Is that where your money goes? I was like, oh my God, you're joking. So yeah, that where your money goes? That's in the song. That's where his money's gone. You could very easily get rid of a lot of money if you're doing coke.
Morris is a bit of a mess, isn't he? Because he says that
he's a mess.
He turns up at Prince's house one night and he's walked there, so his shoes and trousers are soaking wet, and he has to ask Prince for $400, which doesn't seem like that much money in the scheme of things. So the fact that Morris Day doesn't even have $400.
Yeah, right.
He's a mess. He's in trouble. He's got an addiction and he's blowing all of his money.
He ends up, I can't think exactly when, because he's put his band together and fallen in love with his backing singer and then had a kid. Oh, I don't know what he's done. It's all over the shop. And he ends up sleeping on his sister's floor. You guys think, how can you be that famous and be sleeping on a floor? You know, it's just... Yeah. What? Mm-hmm. It's crazy, the ups and downs of it. Yeah, that's definitely... And he's in and out of rehab.
Well, it's a classic addiction tale, isn't it? You're forever in and out.
It's classic.
And his career is the same. So, like, Purple Rain, all this fame has happened, and he actually gets taken on by a manager, Sandy Gorlin, who is Dolly Parton and Cher's manager.
Yes, later Michael Jackson's.
Oh, yeah, Michael Jackson too.
Yeah.
So this guy with these big-time artists sees Morris Day as a solo artist and believes that he can make him into the next big thing.
See, I guess if you're a producer, you go, look, this bloke's already really famous and really loved. So you're not starting from nothing. So you can sell this. There's money here. There's still money to be squeezed out of this. And he's right, because there was.
There was, but he was under contract with Prince that he'd signed back in the day when he was younger.
Yeah.
And Prince wouldn't let him go. He had to pay $300,000 to get out of the contract with Prince. And you kind of think, where's that figure come from? Why are you making him pay? Why can't you just let him go? You don't need $300,000. This is another form of control, isn't it?
I agree with that. I think that's pretty sad. I think that's really pretty sad.
Just let him go.
Let him go. Yeah. Agreed. Enough time has passed, you know.
Yeah. But the drugs keep coming and going, and even though he's got this amazing new management deal and stuff, he kind of doesn't care about it one moment, and the next time he's checking into rehab. And he even says that when he's in rehab, he'll sneak out and go to the clubs in Hollywood. So, you know, he's just a bit of a hopeless case at the moment.
He is, isn't he?
Yeah. And then, but also while he's in rehab, he's also meeting other women and having more children.
Yes, he is.
Because why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you just add more complication to your life?
Yeah. But he says basically he switches one addiction for another. So if he's not allowed drink and drugs, he just goes sex and love. And it's just women. He's addicted. He has one or the other, which is why...
And like I said at the beginning, you know what? This little boy had a horrible start, a terrifying start to life.
Yeah.
He had nobody really to... I mean, he had this amazing mother, but at the same time, he was living in a house... When they got out of the abusive house, he was living in a house with lots of people all shagging each other. Of course, he's going to have multiple partners when he's growing
exactly
up. And he knows that, and he does admit there's a line in this book where he says, as a father, I was not a great success.
Yeah.
So, you know, he knows.
He does.
But he just can't help himself because he's an addict going in and out of rehab and in and out of sexy ladies' beds.
Yes, he was. And the only thing that really ever pulls him together is when he gets a job. Because when he gets a job, he's there for it. Prince suddenly called him out of nowhere and said, come to Paisley Park and jam. Because when he got there, Kim Basinger was hanging about. So that was about 87 when Batman...
Hey, I didn't know. So this is Batman, right?
Yeah.
So I did not know that Kim Basinger went out with Prince.
Did you not? Oh, my God. You want to listen to the Batman album? Yeah, because she's on it.
Is she?
Yes. And she talks about... Oh, yeah, there's lots of juicy gossip there.
Oh, I would never have put them together.
I know, it's pretty cool. It's really cool, isn't it?
Right, we're talking about Morris Day
Yeah.
having multiple women all the time. Actually, Prince did.
Yeah, he has many leading ladies.
Prince just wasn't making them pregnant.
He wasn't making them pregnant, or, yeah, that's exactly right, yes. He's a bit more clever about it. But...
Yeah.
Yeah, so, oh, God, so he was really happy to get invited back and be making music again with Prince, but then Prince had got on a bit of a weird one about religion.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and kept talking to him about... Did that happen later when they was like...
Well, it is. But I mean, we can... Because basically there's a few years now where Prince is just massively famous, knocking all the albums out, shagging all the famous ladies. Morris is in and out of rehab, shagging all the non-famous ladies, having lots of children.
Yeah,
so time passes, and then...
Yeah, and he comes and goes out of Prince's life.
Yeah, so there's a couple of years, actually, where there is no contact.
No, yeah.
And then he gets a message from Prince saying, do you want to come back? And the other members of the Time are invited to Paisley Park. And they all go thinking this is going to be some kind of reunion or some kind of new project. And they're all there, sat down waiting, and Prince comes in and gives them basically a Jehovah's Witness sermon.
Yeah.
And they're all like, what the hell is going on? So he'd got them all there to just preach.
Oh, yeah. Gave them all a talk, and it was also you couldn't drink, you couldn't swear. Oh, didn't one of the times, like, a flask of whiskey or whatever fell out of his pocket? We're in the middle of this speech. They're like, we're done. He's not gonna do it.
So Prince was a proper Jehovah. Was he a proper Jehovah for years?
Yeah, he was, and that had come about after his child had died. He was very, very broken, very spiritually floating about, broken. And Larry Graham from Sly and the Family Stone, the bass player, befriended Prince, and he's a very strong Jehovah, and he sort of took him that way, and it was a sort of way to help Prince out of himself. And a lot of people blame Larry Graham for turning Prince a bit wrong, because a lot of people didn't like that new Prince.
What, because he found religion?
Because Larry Graham kind of indoctrinated him in this thing, and it made him a bit less tolerant of some other things.
Okay.
You know, like drinking, swearing. I'm not sure. It just got a bit
I think that's
murky.
People making excuses. Prince is a grown-up.
Yeah,
He's
he was a grown
He's very
man.
controlling. He knows his own mind.
But he needed an out for his misery, for his brokenness, and he took that out. He did, yeah, he took it.
Okay.
Yeah, so okay, let's not blame Larry Graham. Prince is responsible, but he did. That's when
Did his music become religious?
No, but he started saying he wasn't going to be so sexual after that.
Well, to be honest, he'd been very sexual.
He didn't succeed.
Oh, did he not?
No, I just think it was a weird time for him. It was a terrible, terrible time for him. But he didn't really talk about it. Because Morris Day said right at the end of the book, when at their last meeting, Prince actually told him all the misery he'd been through, and he didn't know. He didn't know anything about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Talking of the sexual, the one thing I've just remembered something. You know when he was putting Vanity 6 together?
Yeah.
Which is those three ladies.
They're like hose in lingerie, yeah.
Well, first of all, he wanted to call them the Hookers.
Yeah.
And then decided not to. But then he wanted to call the lead singer... He wanted to call the lead singer Vagina.
I know.
I mean, that's not even remotely sexy in any way. That's just like, what?
Yeah, I know.
Can't call it Vagina. It really does. Sometimes I think it really does veer towards Austin Powers.
Yeah.
Like,
I know,
he thinks he's being really sexy and stuff, but actually it's really...
It's really ridiculous.
Odd and funny, yeah.
Do you know what it is? That's being a musical pimp. Putting that band together, that is what that is.
So actually, do you know what? He's actually discovered some pretty cool musical talent over the years. When you think about people like Sheila E.
Oh, yeah.
And the others.
And nurtured, and he's put a lot of people forward. Oh, I mean, the Bangles, he gave them Manic Monday. You know, he wrote things for people on purpose.
All under pseudonyms, right?
Yeah, mostly.
He wrote Manic Monday under the name Mark Antony.
Did he?
So but he would do it so people... Because I would say Manic Monday isn't necessarily a Prince song. Sometimes the stuff that he gave other people, you can instantly tell it's a Prince song. Like when he worked with Martika...
Yes.
At the end of the 80s, you could hear that was actually a Prince production.
Yeah,
She's
true.
just singing on it, really, even though it's under her name. But some of the stuff he gave to other people wasn't necessarily Prince-like. Maybe that's why he gave it to other people.
Maybe. I can still hear Prince. I was kissing Valentino, you know, when I woke up in the middle of a dream. That sounds so Prince to me.
And I was surprised when we read Celine Dion that he'd written for her, even.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It is really amazing.
Yeah.
He's just, I'm in awe of that man's talent, really.
It's hard not to be.
Yeah.
If you like music.
I like music.
I like music.
Look, we're getting to the end of the podcast, but... You know, he does still mess them about. Like when he goes on tour again in 2007, the 777?
Yeah.
He asks them to come and be his support band. And then 2 days before the gig, so they prepare and fly over and stuff. And 2 days before the gig, he just sends a message through the manager, I don't want you anymore.
Yeah, right. And they changed motels, and he thinks that could have pissed him off.
He put them in a shitty one.
Yeah, they got themselves a nicer one. They were paying. Yeah, if that's the reason, that's a rubbish reason.
Yeah.
And they'd already spent $5,000 flying themselves over, and they hadn't been paid, and had to fight to get paid. that's bollocks.
And also, he says stuff like they're not allowed to be called the Time anymore. Like Prince has control of their name.
No.
They're all independent, brilliant musicians with success in the industry, but they're not allowed to be called the Time. So even years later, when they get back together, the original members, Prince says you can't be called the Time. I mean, there's no reason for them not to be able to call the Time other than Prince just being an arsehole.
I've just been reading that the Prince estate, only 2 years ago, are saying that they need financial compensation if they want to keep using that name.
I read that this morning.
That's sad stuff. That
well,
is sad
do you know
stuff,
what?
isn't it?
I kind of, it does make you wonder what Prince left in his will. Because do you know what else? The Sinead O'Connor documentary a couple of years ago were not allowed to use Nothing Compares to You.
Oh, yeah, I'm not...
His estate didn't allow the usage of it, her version of it.
Yeah, right.
The estate said no, so that's not even Prince. So it kind of makes you think...
So it could just be lawyers being arseholes, couldn't it?
Well, it is, but they're acting on Prince's wishes. So he wrote something very particular in his will about these issues, about her using that song, about them using that. There's no reason for them not to use that name. It's so petty.
In his lifetime, Morris Day would never have published this book because Prince would have cut him off. Nobody spoke about their Prince stories until he died, because for somebody like me, I was like, yes, now I'm going to hear all the stories. And they did. They all came out. Before that, he was really, really controlling about anybody speaking about him, or probably wasn't even about a will. It was probably just all written in his lifetime and implemented then.
I kind of get that it's part of the personality of, as these genius people are a bit difficult.
But he was desperate for control because the music industry...
I know, but at the same time, he was so entirely generous with his talent. Like we just said, that
it's true.
He gave songs to people left, right and centre, but at the same time, there were always conditions and control over it. I wish he would just lighten up a bit.
I know, because he was so conscious. Like when he wrote Slave on his face, he had such a thing about the music industry owning people, and they do. And once he got free of his contract, he wanted to be in control. So it wasn't a conscious thing to not be ripped off, to not be owned, and he probably went a bit too far the other way, but you see where he was coming from.
Yeah, okay. I kind of get it in terms of like the money men in the music industry and stuff, but just in a way, Prince does that to other people.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I think this book is actually entirely respectful of Prince, and it has not made me see him necessarily in a bad light. I understand why he did what.
But it's enlightening though as well, isn't it? You do see both sides. You can see the bad and the good.
Yeah, and I totally get from this book written by Morris Day that the friendship and the bond is undeniable. They're like brothers in a way, the good and the bad.
Yeah.
But Prince kind of did always look after him most of the time.
He did, really, yeah. And yet sort of gave him enough rope to do his own thing if he pulled himself together to do it, which they did in the end. They actually did. That's really what got him out of all this rehab in the end, is that new manager was like, if you get yourself together, put your band together, you're famous enough, you've got enough songs, you could go out and tour, and they did. It's only when they got the band together and had an act that Prince got them back. And then that last time he said Prince saw the Time playing at the Grammys with Rihanna. So that was them totally independently playing. And they invited him to Paisley Park to play and paid him in advance. And then he says Prince was at the front of the gig dancing and blowing kisses at them and stuff. And then afterwards they sat in his diner. He's got a little diner in Paisley Park, really small. It's like about 5 tables in there. It's tiny. And they had a chat, and Morris Day got to say to him, I didn't know about all the pain you were in. And, that got to talk that out. And then the last thing Prince said to him was, I love you. And he said, Prince never says that. And he said, I love you, brother, back to Prince. And they never saw him again. And they hugged. And he said they never even hugged. And he died 2 months later.
Yeah,
and that's,
what a shock.
And people say they don't know if he knew he was going to die, but he had started to turn Paisley Park into a museum. He'd actually started to put quite a lot of stuff in different rooms. He'd had a mural painted.
Right.
And he started to write a memoir. Never finished it, but he sort of was winding it down a bit.
Have you been to Paisley Park?
I have.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, after he died, but which means I could go in there.
Was it everything you dreamed of?
And so much more. Oh my God, It was unbelievably brilliant. I went for they have annual celebrations now around where when he died, and it was 4 days. You got to go there 4 days in a row. Couldn't believe my luck. So it's like a good long holiday instead of just a day trip, Going there 4 days in a row. I couldn't believe I even go there once. And his ashes are in a model of Paisley Park when you first walk in there. And where the doves are, because he actually had doves.
Yeah.
You just go, oh my God, they stand there and hand out tissues because a lot of people cried. It was only 2 years after he died that I went. But you think, God, he's here. Like, his spirit's here. You just feel him. It's like,
oh, wow.
Yeah, and then Sheila E. was there when I was there, and she was going, oh, he's here. Oh, yeah, he's here. He's watching all these laughing at this.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really cool.
It's weird in a way. Somebody that was so entirely private their whole life, now their home is just completely open for everybody to come in.
Yeah, well, his home part is recording studio, and there's a massive space that's a stage. That he had all those gigs at. So within Paisley Park, that's when he says he called him over to play, and he would never give people notice. He'd put it in the Minneapolis Times or the internet or whatever that day, and say tonight Paisley Park gig, and everyone from the town would come. Because I used to knew it happened. I thought, well, you'd never get enough time to fly over there, and be there. You'd have to live there. You'd actually have to live there. So it was really nice and local and real. He kept it real. But ultimately, it was always open to the public, therefore, if you know what I mean. I tell you, I could talk about Prince forever.
I know.
So you should shut me up.
Shut up.
Yeah, shut up. Shut up already. Damn.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Thrift Shop Biography. We love making this podcast, and we're absolutely thrilled that so many of you are already listening. You could really help us out by leaving us a review somewhere, wherever you listen to this podcast. And if you could share us, tell your friends about us, or drop some links on social media. We have a Facebook page called Thrift Shop Biography, so make sure you come over there to hear about the episodes first and what else we're up to. Okay, see you next week. And if you're new here, there are loads more episodes now to go and listen in the back catalogue, so make sure you go and enjoy them. Okay, thank you very much.